This is the story of 6 little Belmakers and how they grew. Of course, before this story, there was a great love story, but that's a different story. And today we're starting with Miriam's arrival when we were just very young students and we had a tiny apartment, and Miriam didn't even have a crib of her own, just a little basket when she came home.
And this is our wonderful daughter Miriam that we loved so much from the day she was born. Actually, we loved her before she was born even. And it's given us many years of happiness, and this is the story of how she began and how she grew.
I could never figure out how Savta Ilana knew how to take care of Miriam from the day she was born. It was a complete mystery to me how she knew how to do the breastfeeding and the diapers and the burping, and it was a great miracle.
Well, I think it has something to do with the maternal instinct. And just, I don't know, doing just what comes naturally. Here's Miriam when she was 2 months old. And I love this picture for 2 reasons. First of all, Miriam's growing up beautifully. And secondly, the blanket she was on was made by the person who introduced me to bird watching, Hazel Philbrook. And I just want to say, go on to the next picture. You see Abba here feeding Miriam. In those days, we started porridge at a very young age. And Abba was always just a wonderful father, wanted to be involved with taking care of the babies from the time they were born, and was always a very involved father. And just we've been very lucky.
When Miriam was about 3 months old, we moved to Bethesda, Maryland, where I started working at NIH and Ema started working at the Children's Hospital.
Here are my parents, my father and my mother. They came to visit us in Washington, D.C. And Joy, Miriam's cousin, was here, as long as there's Miriam. This is Joy. She's 1 month older than Miriam. And here are my parents playing with the babies and doing their best to get them to smile for the camera. Of course, they're only about 3 or 4 months old, so they don't always smile on command. But my father managed. Here's a smile.
You can see that Grandpa Zaremka was really skilled in getting smiles out of children. He was a professional photographer of families, and he was famous for doing that.
And here's Mother Miriam with the kind of jungle gym that all of you kids have had for your kids as they grow up. And it's just always a miracle to see how they start grasping the ring and looking at things and exploring the world. And there's a beautiful smile that Miriam's giving us. Hello, Miriam.
Miriam had a wonderful smile, and I was so overjoyed to have my first girl.
And in terms of Abba taking care of the kids, he also wanted to make sure he also had opportunity to give them the bath, to change their diapers. He held them. He drove Miriam around in a car when she was crying at night to get her quiet. And here he is giving her a bath.
Miriam was easy in many ways, but sometimes at night it was hard to get her to sleep.
Mm-hmm. And here she is just beginning to crawl, just beginning her first exploration of the world. And who's here?
My mother and father would drive up from Florida to visit us, first in Durham, North Carolina, and then in Bethesda, Maryland. My father was overjoyed at having his first granddaughter, and he loved the name Miriam so much. My sister Helen, Zichrona Livracha, lived in our house for most of the 2 years that we were there and helped a bit taking care of Miriam. She was a student at Georgetown University where she met her husband-to-be, Paul.
I like this picture of Randy, of your Grandpa Belmakers' dog in the movie too.
And this was a trip to Puerto Rico, where I always had every December a meeting in psychopharmacology, and I think it was Miriam's first time swimming in the ocean.
Miriam loved the first day of swimming in the ocean. The second day she got a little bit reluctant. And these is Miriam's first steps. Wow, go on Miriam, yay, you can do it. Here she goes.
We had a nice backyard in our house there in Bethesda with a little garden and we grew some tomatoes and some swings, and it was a nice quiet period like being a postdoc.
It's funny how I remember all the clothes the kids wore when they were young. I remember this outfit very well. Hi Miriam, say bye-bye. Say hello. Say bye-bye to your Abba. Say bye-bye. Come on. And this is a picture of Miriam playing with a flower. Her first 2 words were when she was 11 months old, and her first 2 words were flower and kitty cat.
Savta Ilana was always a mother with lots of energy.
Here's the dog Randy again, and here's Helen, and Bob's parents. And now it's the fall, and you'll see us all enjoying the fall and the fall foliage in Bethesda, Maryland.
אנשים שתמיד מחפשים, יש אנשים שתמיד מגלים, יש אנשים שהולכים בגדול.
Well, children don't always dance when you want them to dance, but we gave it a try.
אבל אני אוהב להיות בבית, עם התה והלימון והספרים.
But it's good at giving kisses.
אוהב להיות בבית, עם אותה האהובה ועם אותם ההרגלים. אוהב להיות בבית. יש אנשים שמטפסים על הרים, יש אנשים שצונחים מגבהים, יש אנשים שרוכבים על סוסים, ויש כאלה
This is a swing in our house that Abba talked about previously.
להיות בבית עם התה והלימון והספרים הישנים. כן, אני אוהב להיות בבית עם אותה האהובה ועם אותם ההרגלים. אוהב להיות בבית.
היה אפשר לאכול לפעמים בחוץ, וזה חסך קצת ניקיון. האופניים האלו עם הגושים של עץ, זה היה הרעיון של האבא שלי. כך הוא היה חוסך כסף ומאפשר לילד קטן לנסות מוקדם יותר על אופניים.
You can see that Miriam knows what she's supposed to do and is trying to push the pedals, but they're a little too heavy. And here's a beautiful winter in Bethesda, lots of snow sometimes.
תיח לשלוח שירים למוסף אבל אין
בשלב זה הייתי כבר בהתכתבות עם הבית חולים עזרת נשים בירושלים על תפקיד שם החל מהקיץ, ולא היו אז אימיילים ולא פקסים, וכל מכתב לקח שבוע-שבועיים הלוך וחזור.
קיבה מקולקלת ושקט נפשי.
And here's a picture of Abba with Miriam and her teddy bear. And here's Miriam dancing. Unfortunately, in those days, the video didn't have any sound on it. So unfortunately, you can't hear the music and hear people talking while the video is going.
הנושא של ריקוד היה בשבילי נס, כמו הנושא שסבתא ידעה גם להאכיל את התינוקת. אני לא הבנתי לרקוד בכלל, וראיתי שסבתא כבר מלמדת את מרים לרקוד.
אבל משלמים לו לפי השורה. ירכיב משקפיים.
This is one of my favorite places in Washington, D.C. It's a park called Cabin John. And here we are in the spring with Abba's parents. And it's a beautiful, beautiful park that runs all through Washington, D.C. And it was our favorite place to go with Miriam on the weekends. And here she is with a flower from Cabin John.
אז תשתה קפה.
אתמול היינו פה עם אשל ושקדי וישבנו בחוץ, וגם כמו אז לפני 40 שנה, בגלל מרים יצאנו לעשות דברים שאולי לא היינו עושים בתור זוג לבד. עשינו בשביל הילדים, אבל זה יוצא בשביל עצמנו.
Here's my sister Arlene, who came to take care of Miriam in Washington, D.C. when our babysitter suddenly quit on us. And it was 1 or 2 months before we were leaving for Israel.
Our first place in Israel was Carmon Street. התחלנו בירושלים ברחוב קרמון.
And we were in a resident apartment on the 4th floor, and going up those 4 flights of stairs was very, very long when I came home tired and Miriam came home tired from the gun.
האורחים שלנו בתמונה הזאת זה דיק אפשטיין ואשתו בני והילדים שלהם, ודיק אפשטיין מדען שותף איתי עד היום הזה.
Here's their daughter Tamar with Miriam tumbling around in bed.
By Pesach 1975, Paul and Helen had already joined us in Israel and had an apartment in Ramot, and there is my cousin Menachem and his wife Shana, landslide of my father from Bloina, Israel.
Their last name was Grabsky.
Right. After a year, Ilana was already pregnant with Yoni, and we moved to Rehov Uziel, where we bought a little apartment. And this is the corner near Rehov Uziel, where we always played.
And when he says little, he means little. It was only 49 square meters. Here we are at at a park near our home, and every weekend we always did something with Miriam. Always took all the kids someplace. And here, our wonderful boy Yoni just got born. And in case you're wondering, I also breastfed, but in those days we also gave some little bit of water to the babies, especially when it was a hot day. And here's Miriam learning how to give a bottle to her little baby brother. I love this picture of Miriam hugging Yoni, and this picture too of Miriam feeding her own baby doll while I'm feeding Yoni.
When Yoni was born, Savta Ilana's parents, Richard and Helen Jane Zaremka, came to visit, and we did a long trip all through Israel including to the Golan with Yoni, who did a lot of crying at nights from the different beds.
And here we are back in Jerusalem with Yoni growing up very, very nicely.
Yoni was always very quiet, and as a child we didn't have the problem when he was home of crying at night the way we did with Miriam.
The only time he cried at night was on the trip with my parents, when he was screamed all night long one night because of not being in his usual bed. And I was so embarrassed my parents would think I was a bad mother because of that. Here we are at the Jerusalem Zoo, and here's a picture of Abba with Yoni in a thing we called I forget the name of the...
It was a minsah, but I don't know what we called it then.
Right. Hi there, Yoni. Hi there. Is that a tasty rabbit? Here's your sister Miriam.
There's my sister and her husband over at our house, I think, for Shabbat dinner. They were very good and very affectionate with our children. Miriam had the most wonderful smile. It would melt my father's heart.
Here we are in Simchat Torah in 76, when Yoni was about 6 months old and 7 months old, and here he is beginning to learn how to crawl while Miriam's playing with the neighbor's dog.
This was not our dog yet, but Miriam was beginning to ask when we would get our own dog. I love the dress that Ima was wearing in this picture, and she wore it for many years, and I always thought it was lovely. The blanket was one that my father gave us that he had gotten on a trip to Canada, and we called it the Hudson Bay blanket.
And here is Yoni's first steps, and we're right in front of our apartment with my best friend Louise. And we're all doing our best to encourage Yoni to take his first steps. It's always a very special time in a baby's life when they take their first steps. And here's Yoni doing it.
It's interesting that Yoni was a little chubby and a little bit of a milk baby, and something you'd never guess today.
And here he is about 15 months old and just 2 weeks before his little brother Ruby is about to be born. We went to the zoo in Jerusalem, the Gan HaChayot, Tanachi, where we used to be at the old place. Oh, here's Yoni walking again at the zoo. Yay! Yay, Yoni, you did it. This was one of Miriam's favorite swings. She loved to be able to be in this and swing her brother up too.
Those swings would not be allowed today. They would be too dangerous.
Here, and now Reuben arrives, and actually he wasn't born on the beach, but we took him to a beach when he was just a few weeks old.
This is the beach near Milwaukee on the Great Lakes.
We were in Milwaukee for 6 months, where Abba was working to help pay back a student loan we had, and I stayed at home taking care of the kids, but also studying for my American Board examinations in pediatrics that I had at the end of the time in December in New Orleans. And here we are at the beach. Oh, where's Miriam's feet? Where'd they go? Oh, here they are. Here they are. And here's Ruby having a nice meal. And I love these pictures also. Here you see the wonderful interaction between the kids.
This is a family movie, but it could also be a breastfeeding manual.
Nice kisses. Nice sweet kisses. here's Miriam practicing her somersaults while Ruby's practicing pushing up on his arms and looking around and exploring the world. And here's Yoni, always loving animals, trying to go and call the dog next door, just the way Shaketi does it now. And here's Miriam practicing her jumping.
עשינו שבתון במילווקי, כי לא יכולנו להחזיר את החובות מלימודי רפואה על המשכורת הישראלית, וקיבלתי שם ג'וב טוב, ויכולנו להחזיר חובות.
We lived in a house right next door to the house where Helen and Paul were, with their oldest son Ephraim. And so we spent a lot of time together. Here's Ephraim playing with me. And so we had a lot of time together. Here it is in, it's like Hanukkah. Yeah, here's Hanukkah.
חנוכה, האמא שלי הגיעה גם מפלורידה לחגוג איתנו ועם הלן ופול.
And here's Reuben. Reuben he turned over very early, he crawled very early, he sat up very early, he walked very early. And here he is, here's Miriam. Also wants to get in the picture too and be with everybody else. And here they are crawling together.
ראובן אהב לזחול ולאכול את האוכל של הכלב. ואז אנחנו כבר בחזרה בירושלים.
And here are Reuben's first steps. Come on, Reuben. Come on. Come on, Ruby. Come on. You can do it. Of course, it's hard to walk when your siblings are kissing you so much and knocking you over with their kisses. And Yoni's being very enthusiastic. And here is just 2 months before Ruby's first birthday. He's like 11 months and 11 and a half months. And here are the daughters of my best friend Louise, Donna and Sharon. And they were at our house every day, or Miriam was at their house every day. And they're incredible, incredible support. I don't think we could have raised all these kids if Louise and her daughters had not been there to help out and just to be there for us and to play, and it was an amazing relationship. And here's Yoni practicing on a wall and smelling the flowers. And here is Miriam with her first Yalkut. In those days, the backpacks were very old style, but that's what they had in those days. And here she is getting ready to go to school. Hi, have a nice day. And this is the street of her school, Miron Sion. There's Miriam with her missing front teeth.
We often enjoyed going horseback riding at a little farm in Givat Shaul, right near the entrance to Yerushalayim.
And it was run by the father of Miriam's friend Ariella, who I believe had gone to kindergarten with her. And we always, maybe it's sacrilegious, we always took a lot of our family pictures on Yom Kippur when it was very, very quiet, and it's a chance to get all the kids together. And these are kind of funny pictures, I think. Yoni eating a big grape, Ruby with the sunlight kind of bothering his eyes. Here's Donna and Sharon and Miriam and me. And you can see Miriam's teeth, also front teeth are missing. She's getting to be a big girl.
זה יכול להיות או יער ירושלים או גבעת התחמושת. היינו עושים פיקניקים רבים בשני המקומות. ואני חושב היתרון של גבעת התחמושת זה היה קרוב לדירה של האחות שלי. זה בספארי בתל אביב, היה פינת חי, ראובן אהב מאוד לשחק שם והוא התפתח מאוד יפה, תמיד עם חיוך, הוא היה ילד תמיד עם חיוך. אחת מהבנות זה מרים והשנייה זה דנה, השכנה.
And here now it's time for Amosi to arrive. Where is he? There he is. Also a very, very simple carriage we had in those days. But it was fine enough for the kids were little. This is a week after he was born. For 8 days.
ראובן אוכל עוד פעם, אוכל ומחייך.
בתיאבון.
בתיאבון ראובן.
את רגליהן הקלות ישנות, האיילות בלילות.
Everybody's hungry. Hi there, Reuben. Hi there.
החיוך של ראובן.
מתוק הירח, הלבן מרחוק ומביט אל תוך הגן.
Babies are born, they're so little, it's hard to believe how fast they grow. Here's little Amosi.
מה חולמות האיילות?
And here he is just 2 months later, already growing up, enjoying the breeze,
שיחקו איתם בג'ולים וגולות, ובכל הכל זה
and already lifting his head up.
בעץ הזה שיחקתם הרבה.
And all of you kids were always so affectionate towards the baby who was just born. It was wonderful to see.
מה חולמות האיילות? בלילות הן חולמות, כי הפילות הגדולות שיחקו איתם בג'ולים וגולות.
And now here's Amosi, beginning to learn how to crawl and eating rocks from the ground, just like all of you did, picking up whatever you could find and put it in your mouth. And this is Yoni and Miriam trying to cooperate on carrying a branch away. Hi, Miriam. Now, after the rock, it's time to try and eat a ball or a pine cone. Yeah, and now he's crawling already.
Amos was just easy. הוא לא עשה בעיות לאף אחד, הצטרף למשפחה, התקבל, לא דרש, קיבל את החלב שלו ושמח.
We've been trying to figure out what this blanket had in it, but we haven't figured that out yet. We don't remember that. But here they all are. Miriam, Yoni, Reuben, and Amos. Hey, Amosi.
אז התחלתי ללכת,
And now Amosi's already beginning to walk.
חשבתי בכלל לאן, רק רציתי ללכת עד כל
Say
הזמן.
hello. Say hello.
לא פגשתי בדרך אף אחד, כמה מצחיק להיות לבד.
And here he is with some of his first steps.
אוהב אותה, כשאת מחייכת.
And one of the games we liked to play in front of our house was a game my mother loved to play. It's called Jacks. I don't think people in Israel really know about it. Up, here he goes. And also Miriam is playing solitaire. Now we're at the horse riding place again, this time with Amos. And he's now already walking, being able to stoop down, stand up.
אבל עכשיו הכל חזר.
Say hello to the horse.
אז על מה את חושבת? שקטה ויפה כל כך. אז על מה את חולמת?
And this is the time that Yoni's going to his kindergarten. and Ruby's accompanying him. As I recall, Ruby was not yet in kindergarten, but he so much wanted to go that he'd often accompany Yoni half the way.
היו ימים בהם הרגשתי זר, אבל עכשיו הכל חזר.
And Amosi is showing us something. Not quite sure it's a bug or a pine cone. And now he's already walking very well. He's now a big boy already.
These are all of my cousins who lived then in Chulon and later moved to Barkan. Avraham Lubliner and his wife Lisa and their daughters Sima and Regina and Sarah. Avraham was my father's first cousin. His mother and my father's mother were sisters, Lubliner sisters.
And there is Alex, that's Evan, who is married to Sima, their oldest daughter. Here's Sharon, the oldest daughter of Regina. There's Sarah. And here's Rosh Hashanah in 1981. And who gets born right before Rosh Hashanah? Aharon.
בכבוד וחיבה וקנאה לתוצרת הארץ, לחלב לחצץ לעוגות.
Savta Ilana was always so happy with the special look on her face when she had a baby.
Well, during the whole pregnancy, you worry about whether everything's going to go out and be okay. And when the baby's born just fine, it's such happiness.
המינים אף כוחות לתוצרת הארץ, אך שומעים יהודים ואינם מבינים, יש מוחות מתוצרת הארץ.
Here we are with a new baby, back again in the Jerusalem Zoo. Hard to believe how that little zoo, so small and so poorly equipped, gave us so much pleasure and so many days of outings. Not too many things open in Jerusalem those days on Shabbat.
Miriam loved to go there even when she's a little girl. And even when she was about 2 years old, I said to Abba, should we go to the ZOO? And Miriam said, zoo, I want to go to the zoo. So spelling the word out didn't work. Up, and here's Aroni's first steps. He's growing up fast. Hi there, Aaron. Here we are in Yar Yerushalayim, in the Jerusalem forest. Hi there, sweetie.
There's Sharon, the neighbor, who is now a shofetet.
And the boy in the background is the son of Elaine and Lee Marcus,
who are colleagues who spent a sabbatical year here.
Come on, Ari, do it again. Whoops. And here's Amosi, maybe a little bit jealous that his little brother's been born and going into the crib of his little brother.
There were very small signs of jealousy in those days, but it amazed me how all the children got along well and played together in a small room that all the boys had to live in, and accepted Aaron and loved him so much. He was so wanted.
And here you can see how crowded things are. We had 3 or 4 kids sleeping in one bed, a bunk bed with a slide-out bed. And at one point we had 2 kids sleeping in one bed, one at each end. And here's snow in Jerusalem.
אם תרצה מר ממוות לטוב אל תדאג, יש מרור מתוצרת הארץ.
And now here's Pesach. This is Aroni's first Pesach.
Aaron started getting some new clothes because the hand-me-down clothes had already worn out after Yoni and Reuven and Amos.
הבוקר בא, הבוקר בא,
Does that taste good? Does that taste good?
שלוש ארבע ולעבודה.
And this is our neighbor, Mrs. Landsman, Givet Landsman, who I like very much, from Argentina originally, and lovely, lovely lady. And I remember on July 4th, 1976, we went out to the front of our yard and celebrated when Israel rescued all the hostages from the Entebbe. And here we are back in the Jerusalem forest. All the older kids in the swing. Hi, Amosi.
Amosi had a special smile, and Aroni had a special depth to his soul that you could see in his eyes.
Hi there. Hi there.
Always
Arnie.
in a quiet happiness.
Hey.
And he was a patriotic American citizen.
And now here's Miriam and Yoni going to school. By now we have sophisticated backpacks. Look how fast Miriam's growing. Really a really young lady already. Here's Reuben.
ראובן ידע להיות ליצן, הוא יודע שהוא מצחיק.
There he is going to his kindergarten. And now in 1983, Arnie's now 2 years old. And all the kids are learning how to ride various kinds of bicycles. Here's Amosi. Here's Amosi going to kindergarten and Arnie accompanying him. All the little kids want to grow up and be like their big brothers and sister. As fast as they can. And now Ruby's turn to start Kita Aleph. What a big day. He's been waiting for this for so long. You can say Yoni already has his grown-up teeth. And here's Ruby looking like a big kid with his hands in his pocket, all ready for Kita Aleph.
בוקר טוב, אדון שוקו, מה נעשה? אולי נלך לבקר, חבר שלנו אדון שוקו אחר.
When the kids didn't like to have their pictures taken, then they got silly.
שני אדונים שוקולדים בחובות צועדים הולכים.
And now Gidon has been born, our littlest one. But the baby who always gave us so much pleasure. He was the only one that was born a little bit premature and a little bit complicated. The only one born after a cesarean section. And he got special attention from everybody because of his being a little bit premature. And he's the one that breastfed the longest also because of that. And it was always just very, very easy, smiley baby. Hi there. Hi there, Gidon. I think he's still in the same Hudson Bay blanket that the other kids were on. And here's Ruby playing with his younger brother.
שלושה אדונים שוקולדים ברחובות צועדים, צהריים בשמש חם. אני עייף, אומר אדון שוקו, אני רעב.
When Gidon was born, we already knew that we were going to move to Kibbutz Yotvata, and it became a Gan Eden לילדים. היה פתאום הרבה מקום, זה החבר של יוני שם, הרבה בעלי חיים.
And Harbe Mirchav Mechia, just a lot of space.
יוני כבר היה גם רציני, אך גם אוהב טבע וספורטאי.
ילכו לבקר, חבר שלהם, אדון שוקו אחר. שוקו, שוקו.
אהבנו מאוד את הכלב שלנו.
אדון שוקו הולך לבקר חבר שלו.
What's he eating? A lord?
וזה תמיד הדהים אותי שלאמא היה זמן ואהבה לגדעון באותה מידה כמו כל האחרים. כשנפל עלינו המחלה של אהרון והיה משותק, ידענו שזה המבחן הראשון הקשה למשפחה שלנו, אך ידענו בליבנו, גם כרופאים, כי ידענו כי הפרוגנוזה מאוד טובה, אבל גם בליבנו ידענו שכולנו נעבור את זה, והאהבה הייתה של כולנו לכולנו, ואהרון קיבל תשומת לב שהיה משותק כמו תמיד. גדעון התפתח יפה על אותו סוס, סטארלייט, שהיה גם בירושלים וגם ביוטבתה כל השנים, כל הילדים. אהרון השתפר והתחיל לקפוץ לבריכה.
כמו ביצה קשה.
איזה שמחת חיים הייתה לו, וגם היה לו בזמן שהוא היה חולה. עמוס גם אהב להשוויץ מאוד.
את בוכה, כשאת בוכה את לא יפה, את לא.
And here's Miriam, already a teenager, beautiful teenage girl, with her little brother, Gidon, at the pool.
ילדה, כשאת בוכה את לא יפה.
Gidon really had blonde hair at that time.
יפה, די לבוא, די
Hi there. The film has a little bit of damage from a long time ago, and that's why you see these little brown things in the film. And here is Ari and Gidoni, their dog then, Cindy, is pulling Ari along, and Gidoni is running after.
But Aaron is very proud. He feels like he's pulling the dog along, and he's all well and can climb and jump with 100% recovery. And we moved to Omer when my father was already sick. My father and mother helped us buy the home in Omer and lived on the first floor. Reuven and all the children, you'll see,
There's Gidoni.
got along well with my parents.
He could walk to Gan. Oops, Ari being a comedian. Amosi being very sweet and doing exactly what he was asked to do, to give his grandparents a kiss going out. And Yoni. And then here comes Miriam.
My father was already ill at this time and would not be alive in a few months.
And here are the kids riding all their bicycles. First Yoni gone out, now here's Reuben. And here's Amos. And here's Aroni. Thinking of some creative way to come out the front door on some kind of vehicle when he was not riding bicycle yet. Hi there.
כשאתה ילד בן חמישי, אתה צריך להיבדל מהאחרים.
And all the boys somehow learned this trick. I never did it, but all our boys learned how to do that trick. And there's Gidon going to his kindergarten. Everybody called Gidon a smile with a kid attached because he's always smiling. And all his kindergarten teachers just loved him so much. Just such a wonderful kid. And here's Ruby riding his bicycle. Amos doing the trick. And here's Arnie. Think of another funny way to go across the street.
About a year or two after my father died, there was an amazing flowering in the Negev after the rain. We went out with all the children and thought of him with all of this flowering in the Negev. This is what he dreamed of after he lost his whole family, that this would be a renewal.
This was an amazing year, amazing experience to see the flowers so high that the kids could get lost among the flowers.
אהבה ממבט ראשון, מה שהרס אותי היה הקשר.
By now, Aaron and Gidon had learned how to ride a bike. In the first bike scene, they had not. And now Gideon could also ride.
One of Abba's accomplishments is making sure that all the kids learned how to ride bicycles, learned how to swim, and then also eventually all the kids, every single one of them got a diving license and learned how to dive. I think that's quite an achievement.
כמו בסיפורים,
Here's Gidoni.
ממבט ראשון.
We were fortunate to have a home right at the end of a street, so there was very little traffic, and it really made it, and right next to a park. So you kids had a really safe place to play while you're growing up. And this is the best birthday party ever. It was Arnie's birthday party, I believe when he was 8 years old in second grade or so. And it was organized by Miriam and by Yoni. And we had a theme of pirates. We had as you can see, they dressed up like pirates. We had a skeleton that was a model of a human skeleton that Abba brought back from the London Museum. And we also had an owl that you can't see in the picture, an injured owl that we're taking care of.
This is Aaron and Itai Farkas,
His best friend.
his best friend.
By then, we're experienced enough parents to know the main things the kids want in parties, but at least little boys in birthday parties, is to run around. So we made them all cardboard swords, and made them all with one look like pirates, and they could run around. But they also had a project of, there's Gidon with a red shirt, of finding the Chapesat of Matmon, looking for a treasure according to clues that was organized by Miriam and Yoni.
This was our family. It was a privilege to have been able to take care of them and make them into the wonderful people, help make them into the people they are today.
Love you all very, very much.
Love from Saba and Savta.
הייתה זאת אהבה ממבט ראשון, כמו בסיפורים. אהבה ממבט ראשון.